Ever wish you could, like, rewind on a classic story and hear it from someone else's point of view?
Yeah.
That's kind of what we're doing today
Okay.
with this deep dive into Percival Everett's novel, James.
All right.
It's Huckleberry Finn,
Ah.
but, like, totally flipped on its head.
Interesting.
And we've got a
Oh,
book review and a summary to help us unpack all this.
So Percival Everett, he's not exactly a stranger to shaking things up in the literary world, is he?
Really? Not at all. I mean, his novels, just think about Erasure,
Oh, yeah.
which actually inspired the Oscar-nominated film American Fiction. They're known for their, like, sharp wit and thought-provoking themes.
Yeah, he really masterfully blends satire and history and philosophy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And in James, he tackles those big questions about race and power head on.
Okay, so for those who haven't cracked open Huckleberry Finn in a while,
Right.
can you give us the rundown on what James is all about?
Well, imagine stepping into the shoes of Jim, the enslaved man who escapes to freedom in Twain's story. Everett gives him a voice, a depth, and intelligence that really challenges how he was portrayed before.
Wow.
You know, we're following Jim's journey on the Mississippi River,
Yeah.
but we're also like going deep into his thoughts,
Yeah.
his struggles, his unique perspective on the world.
So it's not just a retelling.
It's not.
It's a complete, like, reframing.
Precisely. It's about reclaiming that story
Yeah.
from a perspective that's been historically silenced.
Right.
And through that, it exposes the hypocrisy of so-called civilized society and the harsh realities of what freedom actually meant for someone like Jim.
It sounds like Everett's holding a mirror up to both history and literature, like
Yeah, right.
forcing us to question what we thought we knew.
Yeah.
What are some of the key themes that jump out at you?
Well, this idea of reclaiming narrative power is central. Everett is giving agency and depth to a character who was often, relegated to the sidelines in the original story. And it makes you think about whose voices get amplified and whose get lost in the stories we tell.
Yeah, it's like we're finally getting the missing piece of the puzzle.
Right.
And from what I've read, Everett uses satire and dark humor to really drive his points home.
Oh, that's one of his signature moves.
Yeah.
It's like a Trojan horse for social commentary.
Interesting.
You're drawn in by the wit and the humor, and then bam, you're hit with these profound truths about race, history, the human condition.
And speaking of history, the review mentioned this idea of the illusion of freedom.
Right.
What do they mean by that?
It's highlighting how, even after escaping slavery, Jim's freedom was never truly complete.
Yeah.
There were limitations, injustices, systemic barriers that he constantly faced. And it makes you draw parallels to the struggles for racial equality that continue to this day.
So it's not just a historical critique.
It's not.
It's a commentary on this ongoing fight for true freedom and equality.
Exactly. It's a reminder that freedom is not a destination. It's a journey, and we still have a long way to go.
Another theme the review highlighted was literary deconstruction. Can you explain what they meant by that?
Yeah, it's about challenging the way Black characters have been portrayed in classic literature. Everett seems to be directly critiquing some of the stereotypes and tropes present in Twain's original work, offering a more nuanced and complex understanding of Jim as an individual.
It's like he's saying, let's take a closer look at these stories and see if they're really telling the whole truth.
Yeah, and whose truth are they telling?
Right.
It's about questioning the power dynamics, both in literature and society as a whole.
And doing it in a way that's both engaging and thought-provoking.
Yes.
This is what makes Everett such a masterful writer.
Absolutely. He manages to entertain, educate, and challenge us all at the same time.
So we've talked about reclaiming narrative power, the illusion of freedom, and literary deconstruction. Is there another big theme that stood out to you?
Well, the review really emphasized Jim's survival and intelligence.
Okay.
We're seeing him not just as a runaway slave, but as a philosopher,
Wow.
a strategist, a man of incredible resilience and resourcefulness.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's like he takes this character that could have easily, been a stereotype, and instead shows us just how deep and complex he really is.
Absolutely.
It makes you realize how much richer these stories can be when we hear them from more than one point of view.
Absolutely. And it's not just about, giving voice to the voiceless. It's about recognizing the intelligence and the humanity
Yeah.
of those who've been historically marginalized.
Right.
It's a reminder that even in the face of oppression, there is strength and resilience and brilliance.
Okay, so the review also touched on some of the book's strength
Right.
and some potential criticisms. Let's start with the positives.
Right.
They called James a brilliant and necessary retelling, deepening and enriching the original Huckleberry Finn.
It sounds like Everett achieved that rare feat of taking a familiar story
Yeah.
and completely transforming it, revealing layers of meaning that were previously hidden. He's not just retelling, he's re-envisioning.
And it's not just like a literary exercise either.
Right.
The review mentioned powerful social commentary woven throughout the narrative, touching on race, literature, and American history.
That's what makes it so compelling.
Yeah.
It's not just a good story, it's a story that forces us to confront some uncomfortable truths about our past and present.
Yeah. It's a conversation starter.
It is.
They also praised Everett's writing, calling it poetic and sharp, engaging and thought-provoking.
Which is no surprise,
Right.
given his reputation. He's a master of language, using it to evoke emotion, spark reflection, challenge assumptions.
And, of course, we can't forget the characters.
Of course not.
The review highlighted that deep, complex portrayal of Jim, giving him that agency, that voice that's so often missing from these traditional retellings.
This is where that idea of reclaiming narrative power really comes to life. It's not just about telling a different story. It's about giving voice to those who have been silenced for far too long.
Now, the review did mention a few potential criticisms.
Okay.
They suggested that James might be challenging and dense for some readers.
Right.
Due to its philosophical depth.
That makes sense, given Everett's style.
Yeah.
He's not afraid to delve into complex ideas, and he doesn't shy away from nuance.
Right.
He expects the reader to think critically and engage with the material on a deeper level.
It's not a passive reading experience.
It's not.
Another point they raised was that having some familiarity with Huckleberry Finn might enhance the reading experience.
That's a common challenge.
Yeah.
With retellings and adaptations.
Right.
There's always that balance between appealing to a wider audience and staying true to the source material.
Right.
In this case, it seems like Everett is assuming a certain level of knowledge about Twain's work, which could enrich the reader's understanding of the commentary and the nuances of the reinterpretation.
Right. And the last potential criticism was that James is not a traditional retelling, which might surprise those expecting like a faithful adaptation of the original.
This speaks to Everett's subversive approach. He's not interested in simply recreating the original.
Yeah.
He's using it as a springboard for something entirely new.
Interesting.
It's a deconstruction, a reinterpretation,
right?
A challenge to the very notion of what a retelling should be.
It's like he's taking this classic and like turning it inside out, forcing us to look at it from a completely different angle. Now, let's shift gears a little bit and talk about the impact and legacy of James. The review mentioned it was a highly anticipated 2024 release and was met with critical acclaim.
That's a testament to both Everett's reputation as a writer and the importance of this particular project. It seems like there's a real hunger for stories like this that challenge traditional narratives and give voice to marginalized perspectives.
And it's not just about literary recognition either.
Right.
The review suggested that James has the potential to be adapted into a film or a TV show, much like American fiction.
That would be incredible. It would introduce these ideas to an even wider audience and spark some really important conversations about race, history, and literature. Imagine seeing Jim's story come to life on screen.
Right.
His perspective taking center stage.
I can already picture it.
Yeah.
The review wrapped up with some thought-provoking questions for discussion. They asked how James challenges the original Huckleberry Finn and what it says about who gets to tell history.
Those are such crucial questions.
Yeah.
Getting to the heart of what Everett's trying to achieve with this novel. He's forcing us to reconsider the stories we tell ourselves about the past.
Yeah.
And to question whose voices are privileged in those narratives.
They also asked how Jim's perspective changes the meaning of the story and what role satire plays in the book.
Those questions encourage us to really dig deeper into the text and unpack the layers of meaning.
Right.
They invite the reader to think critically and engage with the novel on multiple levels.
And finally, they posed a question that's particularly relevant to our conversation today.
Okay.
Do you think modern retellings of classics are necessary?
That's a great question to leave us with.
Yeah.
It challenges us to think about the purpose and the value of revisiting and reinterpreting classic works. Why do these stories continue to resonate with us?
Yeah.
And how can we engage with them in new and meaningful ways?
And I always love a good book recommendation.
Oh, of course.
And the source material actually included this list of books that seem to echo all these themes that we've been talking about.
Like a curated reading list, perfect for this deep dive.
Yeah. Should we start with another work by Percival Everett himself?
Absolutely. We've only just scratched the surface with James.
Yeah. What else do you think might give us a deeper understanding of his style and his, fearless exploration of these complex themes?
Well, there's The Trees, which is described as a darkly satirical exploration of America's racial history, focusing on the horrific legacy of lynching. Knowing Everett's sharp wit and his ability to kind of make us laugh, even while confronting these uncomfortable truths, I'm really intrigued to see how he tackles such a sensitive and important topic.
Yeah, that definitely sounds like a must-read. I'm adding it to my list. Yeah. And of course, we have to mention Erasure, which we touched on earlier.
Right.
The review highlighted it as a powerful critique of the publishing industry and the ways that it can perpetuate harmful stereotypes about race.
Especially if you loved the film American Fiction, which was, inspired by Erasure.
Right.
Reading the source material gives you even more insight into Everett's unique voice and his critical perspective on the literary world.
Yeah. It's always fascinating to see how a book is adapted for the screen and vice versa.
Yeah, it is.
So beyond Everett, what other authors and works might resonate with these themes?
Next up is a science fiction classic, Kindred by Octavia Butler. It's a time travel story that takes us back to the brutal realities of slavery.
Wow.
But through the eyes of a modern Black woman who finds herself transported back to a pre-Civil War plantation.
Wow, that sounds both intense and incredibly thought-provoking. I've heard so much about Octavia Butler.
Oh, she's amazing.
And her visionary writing. And her ability to weave this complex social commentary into these, captivating narratives.
Absolutely.
Sounds like it's time I finally experience her work firsthand.
You won't regret it. She was a pioneer in science fiction, exploring these themes of race, power, and identity long before they became mainstream.
It's incredible to think how these groundbreaking authors kind of paved the way for new generations of writers to engage with these important themes. Okay, what else is on this literary treasure map?
Okay, well, we have another novel that reimagines a historical concept in a really powerful way. The Underground Railroad by Colson Whitehead.
Okay.
Now, instead of the metaphorical network of safe houses, Whitehead creates a literal underground railroad.
Interesting.
This secret system of tracks and tunnels that enslaved people used to escape to freedom.
Colson Whitehead is such a masterful storyteller. I mean, his novel, The Nickel Boys, was absolutely heartbreaking, but so essential. I have a feeling The Underground Railroad will be equally impactful.
It's a story that stays with you long after you finish it. And for our final recommendation, we have The Water Dancer by Ta-Nehisi Coates.
Okay.
This novel is a lyrical and deeply moving exploration of slavery, memory, and the enduring power of storytelling. It's a beautiful reflection on how the past continues to shape the present, both individually and collectively.
What a fantastic list. It's amazing how one deep dive into James can open up so many new avenues for exploration and reflection. There's a common thread running through all of these books. They grapple with the complexities of race, history, and perspective in such unique and thought-provoking ways.
It's like we've planted a seed, and now we're watching it grow into this whole garden of interconnected stories and ideas.
Right.
It's a testament to the power of literature to spark our curiosity, challenge our assumptions, and broaden our understanding of the world around us.
Exactly. And as you delve into these recommended books, remember those key questions we discussed earlier. Whose stories are being told? Whose voices are being amplified? And whose perspectives might still be missing?
That's a good point.
Because by actively seeking out these diverse narratives, we can start to build a more complete and nuanced understanding of history and the human experience.
That's such an important reminder. We should never settle for a single story.
Right.
There's always more to learn.
Yeah.
More perspectives to consider, and more voices waiting to be heard.
So keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep your mind open to the endless possibilities that literature offers. Because through these diverse stories, we can connect with each other on a deeper level, learn from the past, and imagine a better future.
Beautifully said. Until next time, happy reading.